Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Joining us today on the show is our very own Mr. Denwy Daniel, a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. We're glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much, Francis. Good afternoon.
It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining. All right, so we'll dive right into the stories that we have for today. On the first story, it says National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has arrested a suspended member of the Ondo State Security Network. Julius Okujimi was linked to the seizure of about 90 kilograms of illicit drugs recovered from his shop in December 2025. A statement on Sunday by the spokesperson for the agency, Femi Babafemi, said Okujimi's arrest in Akure was as a follow-up to an earlier raid that led to the recovery of some illegal substances. Babafemi said during the December 2025 operation, NTLEA officers recovered the liquid mixture containing a cocktail of illicit drugs, including cannabis sativa, popularly known as monkey tail, stored in 2 paint buckets and a 25-liter jerry can with a total weight of 84 kilograms, while another consignment of cannabis sativa weighing 4 kilograms was recovered in a bag in the presence of Okujimi's wife, Modupe, when he was absent. According to the agency's spokesperson, Modupe admitted ownership of the recovered exhibits and also revealed that her husband had advised her to venture into the monkey tail business. The state commander of the Corps, Adetunji Adeleye, did not answer calls nor reply to the messages sent to his phone to seek comment. Mr. Denwy Dane, I would love to ask, how big is the problem of illegal drugs like, monkey tail and the likes of it in our communities today?
Well, good afternoon, Francis.
Good afternoon.
My pleasure to be here once again.
Thank you for joining.
So, to dive right into your question, right? Nigeria is a community. I'll use a community. In this case, Nigeria is a community where we do not have, a lot of, rules and regulations that govern some of our actions and all of that. In as much as we have some of them are not really, functional. They are not really strictly adhered to. You get, and then the issue of
illicit drugs,
drug trafficking, illicit drugs, has been an issue over time, right from time immemorial. Do you understand? So, in as much as we talk about drug trafficking, and ways where we can actually see how to stop some of this drug trafficking, it keeps increasing daily. Do you understand? That's because we do not have, enough resources for Nigerians, to make a living with. When I'm talking about resources, I'm talking about basic amenities. Do you understand? Most importantly, provision of job opportunities for Nigerians. Do you understand? And this is now making our youth these days who, we've heard stories where people graduate from universities with first class degrees, 2.1, that second class offer, and the likes of that, and then we find out that they do not have job employment. Do you understand? And then sometimes I go on the road as well, I bought public vehicles, and then you see some, commercial drivers that are graduates, but they did not get an employment opportunity. So this now brings us to, drug trafficking, where people try to do drug trafficking to earn living. Now, and the government has been saying this, we should stop drug trafficking, but the government is not providing the resources, to fully forestall Nigerians going into, drug trafficking. So generally, I would say that the government is not doing their part, basically, to ensure that, okay, the rate at which Nigerians venture into drug trafficking, it's going minimal. They are not doing their bit, to ensure that these things are never spoken of entirely. Do you understand? So I feel like government too should, look for a way and then put in modalities on how to help Nigerians make a better living for themselves.
Okay, Mr. Denwy Daniel, thank you very much. You mentioned that you think the government is not doing much or doing well enough, to help curtail these drug trafficking issues that we're having. So what do you think, or what more can the government and security agencies do, to stop drug trafficking at the local level, basically?
First of all, I would talk about intensifying efforts on, talking about drug trafficking and then what it does. You understand what it does for Nigeria as a
The
brand
effects of it.
globally? Because because some of this news that we have internally, right? People outside the country, they also hear of these stories where Nigerians are involved in drug trafficking. So there are sensitization programs ongoing, to educate Nigerians on the consequences of drug trafficking. So
Mm,
first of all, the government should intensify efforts, do you understand, to ensure that these things these things do not happen frequently. Because if you want to say, okay, there should be no stories of drug trafficking, it is more or less impossible. But if efforts are intensified on sensitization programs to ensure that, okay, Nigerians understand the issues around
drug
drug
trafficking.
trafficking, that would also go a long way as well. That's one. So the one number one, I said sensitization, intensify sensitization awareness. Then secondly, that would be, every to um increase employment opportunities. We have refineries now. If this, we have three major refineries in Nigeria, you understand, and today we can attest to the fact that none of them are working. Do you understand? None of them are working. And if these refineries are put into operation, like full operation, do you understand? One, first of all, it will reduce, the cost at which we buy petrol. Do you understand? But
Mm.
secondly, most importantly, it will provide what job opportunities. Just one refinery alone can give you 4,000 employment opportunities. So imagine when these three refineries are working. So 4,000 times three, that's 1.2 million job opportunities for Nigerians. That's just in one sector. That's oil and gas. When we talk about, okay, from oil and gas, we can do 1.2 million. We go to agriculture, provide opportunities for agriculture. People are there. You go to ministries departments, set up more departments, set up more ministries. People are there. So you can say that everything boils down to job opportunities. Because if I have a job, for example, I will not be thinking about drug trafficking. I will not be thinking about, oh, I don't have money. How do I make money? Do you understand? So everything centers on, uh, you know, job opportunities. Well, kudos to Dangote that is trying to set up his own refineries. That alone will provide, job opportunities for Nigerians. So that is one man trying to breach into the gap of providing job opportunities, which the government is supposed to do single-handedly. In other nations, the government provides job opportunities. Do you understand? So if
Yeah.
Dangote is willing to do this, then the government should do better. The government should set up the refineries to start working. Agriculture is there. A lot of things are there for the government to look into and then provide opportunities for Nigerians to venture into. So we don't have cases like this anymore. So basically, job opportunities and then intensifying, awareness
Efforts and
programs,
awareness programs.
basically.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for your contribution on that story, Mr. Denwy Daniel. So we'll move right into the next story that we have. It says employees of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria have expressed dissatisfaction following management's decision to make enrollment in the National Health Insurance Scheme compulsory for all members of staff. The workers said participation in the scheme had historically been optional, noting that the sudden shift to a mandatory enrollment sparked anxiety among employees who believed adequate consultation and sensitization were not conducted before the directive was issued. The development followed an internal memo dated February 17, 2026 and signed by the Director of Human Resources and Administration and Chairman of the FAN NHIS HMO Committee, Dr. Emiola Olatunbosun, adding that the directive aligns with the federal government policy mandating wider participation in the National Health Insurance Program, now administered by the National Health Insurance Authority. Management further said possession of a valid national identification number is compulsory as part of the documentation required for onboarding and the commencement date for staff onboarding by the NHIA would be communicated in due course. The workers said employees nearing retirement are particularly worried about losing the flexibility previously associated with voluntary participation, and also urged FAN management to organize a comprehensive enlightenment and sensitization program to address lingering questions and build confidence before full implementation of the policy. Mr. Daniel, I would love to know, do you think participation in a national health insurance program should be made mandatory for government workers, or it should remain optional?
Frankly speaking, I'm actually surprised that this initiative was optional, because we're talking about health,
The issue
right?
of health, yeah.
And then as workers, it's very important that because of our job, right, we should take our health status, seriously. So this having this optional before, I think it was a wrong decision, to be very honest. It was the wrong decision, to be very honest. So I feel like this being mandatory is actually resting. Do you
Okay.
understand? Because as much as we are working, to any living, it should make more sense that while you're working, there's a health insurance scheme in place. Now, take for example, for some private organizations, right? They have what they call HMO. Now, HMO is what Health Maintenance Organization. So what that simply does for employees is that, okay, I work with a certain organization, let's say ABY Transport Limited, for example. I work with ABY Transport Limited, and then ABY, part of my payment structure states that, okay, I have what HMO, which is what they refer to as the National Health Insurance Scheme. Do you understand? I have
Yeah.
my what HMO. Now, what the HMO does for employees is that, okay, whenever I have medical challenges, I can go to my HMO. So the
Mm.
HMO now has hospitals that they work with in a particular city.
Mm.
Do you understand? They have a list of hospitals, and then we have different HMOs, right? We
Mm.
have Clearline, we have Answer Mansa. Those are just a few, HMOs that provide what health services for workers. Do you understand? So, in course of doing our respective jobs, if, for example, we fall sick or we have any medical challenge, you can easily fall back to these HMOs and then go to these hospitals and then get medical attention, because just like they say, you can't keep, if you keep working, you might overwork your body. Do you understand? So that is why this should have been mandatory right from the onset, not optional. Because Nigerians, we have this nonchalant attitude most times of, I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to go to the hospital, and then I find out there are more, like, after running a test, and then the doctor tells you, oh, madam or young man, you have these other underlying ailments. You should understand. Nigerians are scared of those kind of scenarios. So this should have been a mandatory requirement from the onset, not optional, because health is wealth. If someone is not feeling fine, the person cannot function effectively or efficiently in the office. So this initiative is a fantastic initiative. I feel this should have been done way earlier and not now.
And that's why I wanted to ask that. Is there not something the management can do, to better communicate policies and address workers' concerns before all of these implementations?
Well, the thing is, policies are policies, right? So there is no better time to set up policies that staff will not talk about it, or
Disagree or complain
protest
about?
again, disagree or complain about. Do you understand? Well, this initiative should have been done way back, but now that it has been introduced, and then we have because what this does, right? So if there's this NHIS scheme, right, a certain percentage will be deducted from your salary, should be told, right?
Yeah.
Certain percentage will be deducted from your salary to service this NHIS. Do you understand? So, but
Yeah.
as Nigerians, sometimes we can be greedy. You know, for example, if the take home is 170,000, and then they want to take, 30,000 from the salary for, for the NHIS, we'll be like, it's small, it's too much. Imagine earning 170 and then you're taking 130. So what will left for me as my take home is 130. It's small. Do you understand? So
Yeah.
Nigerians, we always want to have the full salary and then forgetting that okay, these things are there for our own safety and for for a
Benefits too.
proper work-life balance because you cannot be working and then you don't know your health status. You don't go for periodic checkup. There are some organizations, right, that once the year starts, they tell their employees, okay, go and run a comprehensive annual checkup. Now that comprehensive annual checkup is being covered by the organization because of the deductions that they make from their salaries. Do you understand? To
Mm.
service this NHIS. So imagine doing a comprehensive health check at the beginning of the year. It gives you an idea, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm not doing right. This is what I'm doing right. So generally doing a health check helps you, know your medical status. And then it helps you know, okay, I'm not doing exercises, I'm not eating healthy, I'm not, normal health routine, jogging, eating
Yes, the
balanced
basic
diet and all of
necessities.
that. So that helps you to know your medical status. So the reason why, to the best of my knowledge, the reason why they are kicking against it is because this has not been part of, you know,
The
their
system.
whole routine and all of that. It has always been optional. So
Mm.
people who understand the value of this, I'm certain will not complain about this initiative because I, for one, I feel this should have been mandatory from the onset. But then, whenever you bring policies or regulations that do not entirely conform with the routine of employees, you want to kick against it, but not knowing that in the future or in the long run, these policies are for the betterment of every staff member in the organization. So that's my thoughts on it.
Thank you so much for your contributions on the stories that we've had so far. We will take a short break now, and when we return, we will continue with the rest of the stories. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. And now to the rest of our stories. Controller General of Customs Adewale Adeniyi has handed over 1,650 jerrycans of premium motor spirit, known as petrol, worth 40.7 million naira to Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority for onward investigation. Addressing journalists during the handover ceremony at the Customs Training College in Ikeja, the seized contraband was intercepted at various locations between Badagry, Owode, Seme, and other axes within Lagos State. Adeniyi, who was represented at the event by the National Coordinator of Operation Whirlwind, Abubakar Aliyu, a Deputy Controller General of Customs, said the contraband was intercepted within the last 9 weeks, and it was the outcome of intelligence-driven operations and the vigilant and uncompromising resolve of Operation Whirlwind in safeguarding Nigeria's economy and energy security. He also said the transportation and movement of petroleum products are governed by a clearly defined regulatory framework and standard operating procedures established to prevent diversion, smuggling, hoarding, and economic sabotage, adding that such violations undermine government policy, distort market stability, and deprive the nation of critical revenue. I would love to ask Mr. Denwi Daniel, as regards this story, how will the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority help investigate what happened to the seized fuel? Or better still, I should just say, because of time, I should just rather ask, what else can the government do to stop fuel smuggling in Nigeria?
Well, what the government can do better to stop, fuel smuggling is to ensure that, when we have possession of these petrol products, right?
Yeah.
There should be a certain level of, records that should be kept when, these products are being, moved out, because there are some cases where we have, these petrol products are not recorded properly. For example, we could receive, 1,000 barrels or 2,000 barrels, as the case may be, and then these are being recorded lesser. Do you understand? So the other 100 barrels or whatever could be siphoned by their own internal operatives as well. So the government should ensure that, there should be a security process in line to ensure that these things are recorded appropriately.
All right, thank you very much for your contribution on that story. Like I said, because of time, we need to rush the last story that we have for today. The last story that we have today says the president of the Nigeria Union of Teachers, Audu Amba, has urged teachers nationwide to fully comply with the registration requirements of the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, warning that those who fail to do so may face disciplinary action. He said to qualify as a professional teacher, an individual must possess at least a certificate in education, a Bachelor of Education, a Master of Education, or a postgraduate diploma in education for those who are already teaching but did not study education as a first degree. Amba described the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria as a product of the union's long-standing advocacy for professional standards in the teaching sector, adding that the council was established to regulate the teaching profession and ensure that only qualified and licensed individuals are permitted to teach in classrooms. Amba expressed concern over the growing trend of individuals without teaching qualifications entering classrooms, often due to unemployment in other sectors, stressing that teaching should be strictly reserved for trained and licensed professionals. The NUT president also said teachers are expected to register with Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria and obtain certification, adding that a disciplinary committee had been established to monitor compliance and address cases involving unregistered teachers. I would love to ask on the story, Mr. Denwi Daniel, how serious is the problem of unqualified people teaching in schools across the country?
My question right now is, where have the NUT been all this while? Do you understand? Because far back as I can remember, we've had teachers that have been teaching, right, both in private schools and government schools without being registered with the NUT. Where have they been all this while? And then you now come up with some of these policies that okay for someone to teach in the classroom, the person should have studied education in university, right? And then the person also should be registered with the NUT. So my question now is the registration free? And where have they been all this while? Because so far as I can remember, teachers are not being paid. So let's say, for example, the registration is a certain amount. How much do they earn? Do you understand? That would now warrant them to do the registration with NUT. That's my question because I was once a teacher when I left the university because I was, just like I said, there were no jobs available as at the time. I had to venture into, teaching. And then the salary was nothing to write home about. But because, as at the time, I just needed to occupy myself with some things, right? I had to, venture into teaching. And if you want to take a survey right now and then ask some of these teachers how much they are being paid, it's nothing compared to how much they spent in the university to gain this degree. And then you're now telling them to do registration with NUT. The question is the registration going to be free? Because from from all of the stories, it is definitely not going to be free. These teachers will have to pay a certain token, to get registered with NUT, and then as well, they will definitely be what a membership renewal fee. Do you understand? They have to keep renewing their membership. That's a certain amount as well. So how much do these teachers aim to get involved with this? Now, what NUT should focus on is ensuring that teachers are not. There should be a benchmark for payment for teachers. Do you understand? If the benchmark is 80,000, 90,000, 100,000, I can tell you for a fact that there are some teachers currently in Nigeria and they are being paid 25,000. How much is 25,000? How much is 25,000? How much of the school fees is spent in the university?
But don't you
Do you
think,
understand my point?
sir, Mr. Denwi Daniel, don't you think this is as a result of the non-qualifications of these teachers? Because we have cases where we have people who have not even attended the university yet, teaching in schools, some of these primary schools, and some of these schools are also not registered. Don't you think that these payments is based on the level of qualifications of these teachers? I mean, isn't there a possibility
Now,
that those who have a better qualification would get a better pay?
I can tell you for a fact that even those who have better qualifications are not paid well. They are still underpaid. Now you're talking about some of these schools are not registered and all of that. Now it is now left for the owners of these schools to ensure that okay, to ensure that at the point of conducting these interviews, each of the schools should have their principles. We have their requirements. For example, you cannot just hire someone who is not a graduate and they expect them to teach future generations of tomorrow. It's crazy. So as a school owner, whatever it is, you should have laid down principles, laid down qualification criteria for employment, because you may not be there when these teachers are educating the younger ones. So at the point of the interview must be conducted for every teacher that gets onboarded into the school. Interview should be conducted, and the degree also should be adhered to. You can't just hire an O level to teach children because okay you need staff and then you don't want to you're economizing your funds. So these are the areas where NUT should look out for. Schools that are not registered, ensure that give them a time frame. Ensure that these schools are registered. Do you understand? Because at the end of the day, schools that are not registered, they may not be able to, their students may not be able to sit for the external exams, like the West African Examination Board exams. They may not be able to sit for those exam because the school is not fully registered. And then we've seen cases where when these children get to a certain level, they now change their schools to a different one that is registered with the government so they can sit for the external exams, which is not supposed to be so. The NUT should focus energy and time and resources in ensuring that these schools are registered. Give them a time frame. Oh, your school is not registered. What's the capacity of your school? What's the numerical strength? Okay, I have a total of 130 students. Okay, you have a time frame from now till now to have a school registered with the federal government. That is what they are supposed to do, not focus on registration and all of that. Once the school is registered, it is a process. It is a process. Have to ensure that the schools are registered for the safety of the students in those schools. And then we'll now talk about registration of teachers with NUT. So I think that's what they should focus on, and not the other way around.
Okay, quick one, Mr. Daniel. So don't you think that these policy, right? Don't you think it is going to have a better, let me say, make better the quality of education in Nigeria?
It is, no doubt. I'm not arguing with you that it is not going to make the quality of education better. But there's this saying that if you want a good meal, you should spend for the good meal. Now, how many of these teachers, how many of these schools are willing to go the extra mile, to ensure good compensation for their teachers? Because at the end of the day, we're in a society today where people take up a certain job because of, okay, they look at the pay, they put the pay in front, right, before they can take up a certain job. So imagine a graduate coming to a particular school and then you're being offered 30,000 naira as salary, after showing up every morning, putting up lesson notes, condoning with, some of the behaviors of these students in class. Do you understand? And then they go home with 30,000 naira. It's really poor. It's really poor, basically.
All right.
How would they feed with 30,000? How would they make basic, provide basic necessities for themselves? Because
Thank you so
a small
much.
amount of money.
Thank you so much for your contributions on these stories. We had an amazing time today, but this is where we wrap it up on this edition of Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network in the city of Port Harcourt. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Denwi Daniel, for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Francis.
Thank you. We're open for advert placements, news and events coverage, personality, society and political interviews, product service promotion and commercials. Watch us live on www.atlanticnetwork.tv, Able TV channel 205, Limix TV platform, Ifestec platform, Apple TV, Niger TV, Iroko TV. Connect with us on 18 socials, subscribe, like and share. Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network. Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV. On Twitter now X, Atlantic TV Net. Remember, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching. I am Francis Necker.
The 2026 Anniversary Celebration Lecture of Morrison Media Group. Theme: Media's role in shaping social change, addressing inequities, and empowering voices. Chairman Alex Ndudi Enebele, FSM, President, Institute of Strategic Management of Nigeria, Chartered. Keynote speaker, Professor Armstrong Idachaba, Professor of Media and Broadcasting Communication. Panelist, Professor Chris Ochonogo, Immediate Past Head of Department, Journalism and Media Studies, University of Port Harcourt. Dr. Ijoma Tobosia, Secretary, NUJ, River State. Dr. Sarah Joe, University Orator and Associate Dean, Faculty of Communication and Media, River State University, Port Harcourt. Dr. Ibiere Koki, Ignatius Aju University of Education, Rumolomini, Port Harcourt. Chief Host, Dr. Chinyere Igwe, Esquire, Chairman, Morrison Group. Date: Tuesday, 10th March 2026. Venue: Gate Place Hotel, Kilometer 5, East West Road, adjacent Obirikwere Flyover, Rumosi, Port Harcourt. Time: 10 a.m. For more information, please call Kainde Paul Obofadi 081 063 41777 or Samuel Ajinwo at 090 454 00745.